This is the early edition, a curated weekday guide to major news and developments over the past 24 hours. Curated by Lizzie Jennings and read by an automated voice. Published May 15, 2026, on Just Security, an essential resource for those shaping a just and secure world. Here's today's news. U.S.-China Summit. President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping emphasized stability between the two nations on Friday, as they concluded the two-day summit in Beijing. The leaders made no specific announcements on trade, Taiwan, the war in Iran, or other points of contention. "We've settled a lot of different problems that other people wouldn't have been able to settle," Trump told reporters, without elaborating. Luke Broadwater, Anna Swanson, David Pearson, and Anton Troyanovsky report for The New York Times. Trump told Fox News yesterday that China had agreed to order 200 Boeing jets, which would be its first purchases of U.S.-made commercial jets in nearly a decade. This fell short of the roughly 500 expected by markets. China has not officially said whether it agreed to purchase the aircraft. Sarah Charlton, Deborah Kiever-Casayos, Farouk Suleiman, and Kylie McClellan report for Reuters. Keith Bradsher, Qasim Nauman, and Niraj Chokshi report for The New York Times. U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer said today that he expected China to agree to purchase more than $10 billion in U.S. agricultural products following the U.S.-China summit. Greer also confirmed that the United States and China would establish a board of trade to oversee a tariff reduction on about $30 billion in goods. Anna Swanson reports for The New York Times. Iran war, Lebanon operations. The U.S. State Department said the Israel-Lebanon talks in Washington yesterday were productive and positive, with an official adding that discussions will continue today. With Lebanon's health ministry reporting 22 people killed in Israeli strikes yesterday, including 8 children, the senior Lebanese official said the Lebanese delegation would seek a ceasefire that Israel implements. Layla Bassam, Stephen Shear, and Kanishka Singh report for Reuters. Iran war, Strait of Hormuz. The United Arab Emirates will accelerate construction of a new oil pipeline to double its export capacity through Fujairah by 2027, the government's media office said today, vastly expanding its ability to bypass the Strait of Hormuz. Youssef Saba reports for Reuters. Iran war, U.S. developments. House Republicans narrowly blocked a resolution that would have required Trump to seek congressional approval to continue military operations against Iran, with the vote ending in a 212-212 tie, despite support from 3 Republicans and most Democrats. One Democrat, Representative Jared Golden, ME, opposed it. Robert Jimison reports for The New York Times. Republican senators are warning that any request from Trump for tens of billions of dollars to pay for the Iran war is unlikely to pass the Senate unless Trump comes to Congress with a formal request for authorization or a clear plan to end the war soon. "I think the supplemental is in big trouble. I think that's one of the reasons we haven't seen a formal supplemental request. I think that's going to be a very heavy lift," a Republican senator said anonymously. Alexander Bolton reports for The Hill. Iran war. Other developments. Admiral Brad Cooper, head of U.S. Central Command, told senators yesterday that the destruction of an Iranian school, which Iranian officials said killed 175 people, was the only civilian casualty event he knew of in a campaign of more than 13,600 strikes. Cooper also said the incident remains under investigation, as the U.S. military has still not taken responsibility for it. Meanwhile, The New York Times has verified damage to 22 schools and 17 healthcare facilities in Iran. The Iranian Red Crescent Society said on April 2 that at least 763 schools and 316 healthcare facilities had been damaged or destroyed in the war. Israel-Hamas war. Israel plans to sue the New York Times and one of its journalists for defamation over an article that said Israeli soldiers, prison guards, and settlers had used widespread violence against Palestinian prisoners, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said yesterday. They defamed the soldiers of Israel and perpetuated a blood libel about rape, trying to create a false symmetry between the genocidal terrorists of Hamas and Israel's valiant soldiers, Netanyahu said in a statement. Stephen Shear reports for Reuters. Russia-Ukraine war. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said today that a Russian missile attack on a Kyiv apartment building yesterday killed 24 people. Samia Kulab and Barry Hatton report for AP News. The Committee of Ministers of the Council of Europe today approved a key agreement in the process of establishing a special tribunal for the crime of aggression against Ukraine, creating the institutional and funding structure for the tribunal. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha said the decision meant that a point of no return had been passed, and that the special tribunal had become a legal reality. EU Today reports. Editor's note. Readers may be interested in Ward Ferdinandus, in absentia trials, and the Special Tribunal for the Crime of Aggression against Ukraine. Just Security, May 15, 2026. The Integrated Food Security Phase classification yesterday warned that over 40% of Sudan's population, nearly 19.5 million people, are facing acute food insecurity. The IPC added that at least 135,000 people were in Phase 5, which is characterized by extreme food gaps, starvation, very high levels of malnutrition, and death due to disease or acute malnutrition. AP News reports. Other global developments. Philippine Senator Ronald De La Rosa fled the Senate building in Manila early on Thursday morning, Philippine Interior Secretary John Vic Remula said, adding that De La Rosa had fled with another senator in a car and that federal agents were now searching for him. The Justice Minister said today that the country will definitely submit to a request from the International Criminal Court to arrest De La Rosa, though his current whereabouts are unknown. Sui Liwi and Jason Gutierrez report for the New York Times. Reuters reports. The UN Residual Mechanism for Criminal Tribunals said yesterday that it had denied a request for early release by former Bosnian Serb military leader Ratko Mladic, who was convicted of genocide and crimes against humanity. Mladic filed a motion for early release on humanitarian grounds, the court said last month, because he is in a state of advanced, irreversible medical decline, Reuters reports. Yemen's internationally recognized government and the Iran-backed Houthis yesterday agreed to free more than 1,600 detainees in the largest swap during Yemen's 11-year civil war. The deal was signed in Amman, Jordan, after 14 weeks of negotiations observed by UN officials and the International Committee of the Red Cross. Omar Akour and Karim Chahayed report for AP News. U.S. Foreign Affairs. Over 100 U.S. ambassador posts around the world are vacant in the Trump administration. In Africa, 37 of the United States' 51 embassies have no ambassador. The Trump administration attributes vacancies to slow nominations and Senate delays, while relying instead on special envoys. Robbie Grammer reports for The Wall Street Journal. U.S. Caribbean and Pacific operations. The U.S. is taking steps to indict Raul Castro, the 94-year-old former president of Cuba and brother of Fidel, in connection with the downing of planes in 1996, according to U.S. officials familiar with the matter. The incident occurred when two Cessnas operated by Brothers to the Rescue, an exile group that searched for Cubans seeking to flee the island on rafts, were shot down by a Cuban MiG-29 fighter jet, killing 4 people. Jennifer Jacobs and Sarah N. Lynch report for CBS News. CIA Director John Ratcliffe yesterday met with Raul Castro's grandson, Raul Guillermo Rodriguez Castro, following an earlier U.S. visit last month. Ratcliffe personally delivered Trump's message that the United States is prepared to seriously engage on economic and security issues, but only if Cuba makes fundamental changes, a CIA official said. Jennifer Jacobs and Sarah N. Lynch report for CBS News. Politico reports. Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez said Cuba was willing to consider the U.S. offer of $100 million in humanitarian aid, but said no strings should be attached. "We hope it will be free of political maneuvering and attempts to exploit the hardships and suffering of a people under siege," Rodriguez said on social media. Dave Sherwood reports for Reuters. U.S. immigration developments. The Department of Homeland Security is seeking to deport at least 50 green card holders through a new unit dedicated to revetting thousands of immigrants' permanent residency, according to internal data obtained by the New York Times. About 2,890 cases had been reviewed or were still being assessed as of May 7. 80% of those cases were deemed as requiring no further action. DHS is continuing plans to turn warehouses into immigration detention centers despite lawsuits, local opposition, and a federal watchdog investigation into whether ICE overpaid for the properties and skipped required environmental reviews, according to sources. Douglas McMillan reports for The Washington Post. U.S. Border Patrol Chief Mike Banks said yesterday that he is resigning from his position effective immediately to enjoy the family and life. Aaron Pellish reports for Politico. U.S. domestic developments. Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough ruled yesterday that 4 parts of the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee's portion of the Republicans' budget reconciliation package do not comply with Senate rules. These parts, dealing with immigration enforcement, will need to be reworked or risk Democrats forcing a floor vote on each provision that would be subject to a 60-vote threshold, according to a statement from Budget Committee Democrats last night. Jordain Carney and Jennifer Schultes report for Politico. Citizenship lists that the Trump administration has ordered be compiled and shared with state election officials this year are likely to be incomplete and unreliable for determining voter eligibility, the Justice Department told a federal judge yesterday. Zach Montague and Adam Sella report for the New York Times. The Justice Department yesterday accused the Yale School of Medicine of violating anti-discrimination laws. Yale is the second medical school targeted in the past 8 days over its admissions policies that the government said illegally favored Black and Hispanic applicants over more qualified white and Asian students. Michael C. Bender reports for the New York Times. A Justice Department ethics lawyer reportedly told Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche shortly after he took office as Deputy Attorney General in 2025 that he must recuse himself from matters involving Trump in his personal capacity due to his prior role as Trump's defense attorney. Caitlin Palance, Evan Perez, and Hannah Rabinowitz report for CNN. Trump administration actions. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's last-minute decision to cancel the deployment of 4,000 troops to Poland caught Pentagon staff and European allies by surprise, sources said. 3 defense officials said it was unclear why Hegseth had even issued the order. "We had no idea this was coming," said one of the U.S. officials, adding that European and American officials have spent the last 24 hours on the phone, trying to understand the decision and figure out if more surprises are coming. Paul McCleary and Jack Detch report for Politico. The Trump administration planned to start work at the site of the proposed Triumphal Arch by piggybacking on an unrelated contract for engineering services at the White House grounds more than a mile away, emails obtained by The Washington Post show. The move would allow the administration to bypass a potentially lengthy public bidding process. Sarah Blasky and Jonathan O'Connell report. Trump administration litigation. The Supreme Court yesterday extended its pause on a lower court ruling rolling back the availability of the abortion drug mifepristone. The move preserves online and mail-order access to the drug until the lower court rules on the merits of the case. Alice Miranda Alstein and Josh Gerstein report for Politico. In case you missed it, yesterday on Just Security. The Trump administration's use of state power against media, keeping track of the big picture. By Rebecca Hamilton. Nuclear-powered AI, the risks of deregulation. By Michael J. Kelly and Craig Martin. Is the United States at war with Iraq? By W. Casey Biggerstaff. Thank you for listening to Just Security's early edition today, May 15th, 2026. If you enjoy listening, Just Security's analytic articles are also available in audio form on the justsecurity.org website. To stay up to date on Just Security's analysis of law, policy, and current events, go to justsecurity.org, subscribe to Just Security on Substack, and follow us on LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads.